Hi, I'm Reed Peterson, and welcome to Grief Refuge. Thanks for listening today and letting Grief Refuge be a resource to help you cope with your loss and support you through grieving. I'd like to personally welcome you, whether this is your first time listening or if you've heard my voice before. The mission of Grief Refuge is to provide daily support to help you find peace and purpose after experiencing a death-related loss. We offer our Grief Refuge app, webinars, groups, and retreats to ensure that you're comforted, you're soothed, validated, and cared for. Grief can be isolating, can be ridden with guilt, shameful, and can hurt you in ways that seem impossible to endure. Grief Refuge is here to help. I'm pleased to know that you're listening to the Grief Refuge podcast because here we host authentic and often neglected conversations about grief. We go deep into the emotional hardships and experiences, and we hope what you hear on this podcast helps validate your authentic experience. It helps you reflect and honor your loved one, and helps you gain insights for navigating your own grief journey. Grieving is one of the hardest things a human can go through. I'm honored you're here, and I promise to do everything I can to provide the best support to you. Before we begin today's conversation, I have a couple important things to share. Because of the nature and the depth of the topic, it may be more beneficial to not multitask while listening. Rather, I invite you to use this time for your self-care and your personal reflection. Please use this time to settle in, to feel grounded, and allow your grief-related feelings to run their course. If anything, please use this time to mourn your loss. Also, this podcast publishes episodes once or twice a month. When you're grieving, that's a lot of time in between each episode, and you may need more resources to help feel more supported. If that resonates and you need more support at this time, please download the Grief Refuge app. It's the daily support I mentioned moments ago, and the app has several features to guide and support you through a grief process. A short testimonial from a real grieving person named Melissa said, "I am so blessed to have found this app. This app answered a lot of my questions and is really helping me get through my grief." The Grief Refuge app, it's easy to find. It's on your phone's app store and is a free download. Please search for Grief Refuge and download it now to get daily support. Today, I would like to share a guest interview with you. My guest is Bryan Jung, and he created a platform for individuals who have lost a parent as a child or a teen. It's called This Is Why, and it can be found online at thisiswhy.life. In our conversation, Bryan shares some of the trauma he and his family endured after tragically losing his father at just 10 years old. He also shares some of the things that have helped and continue to help him cope when those waves of grief hit. I can tell that Bryan's heart is in the right place, and I'm grateful that he made This Is Why for the people that need it most. Please enjoy the conversation with Bryan Jung. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Grief Refuge. I'm here with a special guest today. His name is Bryan Jung. And Bryan, you've got me confused off the bat. We obviously don't know that much about each other right now, but in our communication of setting up this conversation, I've heard you share you were in Mountain Time, but I've heard you speak to Pacific Time. So, Bryan, where are you?
Yeah, thanks, Reed. I'm currently in Denver, Colorado right now, but was born and raised in Seattle, Washington. So, Seattle's always going to be home for me, but just enjoying kind of the Seattle counterpart with a little more sunshine out here. So it's been great.
I feel you on that, Bryan. You know, at the time of this recording, my wife and I are currently in Asheville, North Carolina, and we are only 3 weeks here, but we just spent the last 3 months in Bellingham, Washington. And that was intentional, being the winter season. Bellingham was a city that we were looking to possibly relocate to permanently. And we said, we visited there in June of 2022. And we said, well, it's beautiful here. We got to come back in the winter when we know it's going to be tough. And sure enough, it got the best of me. I said to my wife, Jess, I'm sorry, I can't do this.
I was just gonna say, the selling point for Washingtonians is June through August, and that's kind of where you get the picturesque, go by Pike's Place Market, and that's the best time to visit Seattle. But outside of that, it can get pretty gray and rainy. So, yeah, I completely understand there.
Awesome. And so with spending some time in Colorado, have you picked up on any new hobbies that you did not do when you lived in Seattle?
Yeah, I actually got into skiing right before the COVID outbreak. So January 2020, I started skiing in Seattle, and then I actually moved out here last February. So obviously with the Rockies out here, it's been just such a great experience. Just being able to go out in nature and kind of have some, cathartic and athletic experience, going out to the mountains every weekend as much as I can and just kind of enjoy that aspect of it. But yeah, there's just so much to do outdoors with, hiking and just sightseeing. And, I love to travel. I'm a big traveler. So, visiting some different places that I haven't been to before and just kind of experiencing those new towns and new cities has been really awesome out here.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite resort that you like to ski at?
Ooh, that's a tough one. There's so many great ones, especially just kind of being only a couple hours away from downtown Denver. But Steamboat Springs, I just recently went to, and that's incredible one with the conditions and how much snow they get. A little bit further drive, but definitely worth it just to have a little weekend out there. But there's also Winter Park close by, and some other ones as well. And I'm just so new to skiing, so really any kind of new terrain, new track is all a good time for me.
Yeah, there's tons of great resorts in Colorado, whether it's Summit County or up in Steamboat. It's incredible. They definitely compete with any other states or even up in British Columbia as far as offering great skiing, great snowboarding. And my personal favorite happens to be Breckenridge. My wife and I lived in Boulder for 2009 to 2014. And when we were there, I definitely gravitated towards Breckenridge, loved being in their back bowls, and just had one heck of a time while we were there. So, well, cool. Thanks for sharing a little bit about that. It's fun to get to know you a little bit more. And obviously, when you're not skiing on the resorts, you're focusing on what sounds like providing some grief support, right?
Yeah, I am currently full-time data engineer for Amazon. But it's with grief support, it's something that I'm so incredibly passionate about. And is something that, is near and dear to my heart with my past experiences. So, in my free time, as much as I can, I just want to try to help, anyone who's kind of suffered a tragic loss, at a young age. And that's kind of what aligns with, my past experiences and what I went through.
Awesome. Yes. Well, it sounds like you're being a little bit reserved. uh, you've got a platform, right? A community building platform. It's online, right? And it's called This Is Why.
That's correct, and it's called This Is Why. It is a platform community for individuals who have lost a parent as a child or teen, which kind of leads into my background story. If you'd like me to go into that right now, I'm happy to kind of share the details and just provide kind of a high, level summary of my experiences and kind of what led me to This Is Why.
Yeah. So oftentimes, as in my case of building grief refuge, personal experience leads to wanting to help provide, I like to call them resources. Hopefully that word resonates with you. And so, yeah, Bryan, I'm assuming there's been tragedy in your life, and it's led you to helping create This Is Why. And if you feel open, yeah, I would love to learn a little bit more about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. The origin of This Is Why really started in 2004. November 3rd, 2004 is a day I'll never forget. To provide a little bit of background, my father was a lawyer in the Korean American community around Seattle. And he was working on a court case against an opposing lawyer kind of in the Seattle surrounding area. There was a day where both my father and the opposing lawyer were supposed to show up in court. And what I've learned from kind of the court proceedings was that the opposing lawyer thought my father was a little bit ahead in the case in terms of kind of winning that case ultimately, and wanted to actually put my father in the hospital for a little bit to kind of catch up on some time and catch up on some work. And so November 3rd, 2004 was one of those court dates where there is both supposed to show up. And when my father was walking to his car in his at his office's parking garage, the opposing lawyer actually came to my father's office and fired off a silenced pistol 3 times and struck my father once in the head, which is, obviously a pretty crazy circumstance, but, ultimately led my father to be in a bedridden coma for about a year and a half until his passing in February 11th, 2006. And that was 9 days before my 11th birthday. So, November 3rd, 2004, kind of being a sudden, circumstance, just a complete change of, family dynamics and, just our lives and how are we going to, proceed from there. But then also kind of, the year, a little under a year and a half of, visiting my father in the hospital and, seeing him in that state and just navigating, grief, not only as a family, but also as individuals as well. Kind of how my mother, my older brother, who is 3 years older, and how, we all can kind of get through this together. And ultimately we knew, on February 11th, 2006, his passing, we were almost relieved because we knew how much pain he was in. And just seeing my father unable to talk, unable to really communicate at all, we knew that he was going to be in a better place. So, while that was definitely a saddening experience, we knew that that was, going to make him pain free. And, just that whole, span of, about a year and a half, that was, something that drastically changed, the rest of, the course of my life, my brother's life, my mom's life. But I think it's really, made us who we are today in terms of that strength and resilience and perseverance on how can, a life experience like that really, teach us more in this life and, really allow us to grasp every day, each day, to the best of our ability and really just, take advantage of the time we have here. So that ultimately led me to, over the years, kind of think about, okay, I've had my struggles mentally, emotionally, with everything that was going on, just because, everything did happen when I was 9 years old and then right before I turned 11 years old. And so navigating those teenage years, high school years, and just kind of having those different phases of grief led me to kind of be, more mature in terms of, I think I'm strong enough to really use my experiences to help others out who have experienced, a similar circumstance. And so on June 2021, kind of, being able to speak with a lot of different, great professionals in the grief and bereavement support space over the years, I wanted to really kind of find something tangible to help out some individuals who have gone through some things that I've gone through. And so that was really the origin of This Is Why in June of 2021, just to kind of create a platform and community for individuals who have lost a parent as a child or teenager. And it's really just kind of a story, an open story platform, with the option of anonymity, just to really express any, feelings of grief or emotions, and just really kind of let out anything as a cathartic experience. And I think there's so much that can be gained from not only someone sharing their story, whether it's one sentence or, multiple paragraphs and maybe just, a huge page, whatever kind of allows them to just release any pent up emotions or feelings, is what I want to provide in terms of that opportunity for some of those, going through a similar grief journey as mine, but also other readers, in the community, who have either gone through something similar and just kind of need, someone else's perspective, to add, strength and support, and really kind of understand, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I think there's such a great kind of community driven, reciprocity there in terms of the readers and contributors really kind of helping each other out, navigating, this grief journey, as I do believe it is a lifelong journey. It's really just kind of having a strong support system, whether or not you know them, personally, or if it's just a stranger who has gone through similar experience. That's really what kind of led me to This Is Why, and it's been such an incredible experience so far.
Yeah. Well, really appreciate you giving that. It's a lot of, backstory, and it helps gain some perspective as far as some pieces to your journey in the creation of this, and also some of your healing, if it's okay to call it healing. I earlier in the conversation, I resorted to tragedy, but I'm also wondering, was there experiences of trauma too? Bryan, I truthfully feel dumb asking you that, but some people do identify as having traumatic experiences and some people don't. And with the situation, with what happened to your father and what happened to your family as a result, were there experiences of trauma throughout this process?
Yeah, definitely for me, I ended up developing, pretty severe anxiety disorder, kind of around the time everything happened, and also some of the years in my early teenage years. Um, and it was really just kind of due to the fact that the, circumstances were so tragic, but, most likely also due to just how young I was, experiencing all of this. And the anxiety disorder was something where I would, not necessarily get, crippling panic attacks, but I would definitely feel my heart racing just in random circumstances, especially in kind of new situations where it was something new I was trying, or if I was going to a new place, I'd get a little bit anxious in terms of, what could this new experience bring? And that kind of led me to, my mother trying to get me to a lot of different counselors and really trying to just get the help I needed, from that, professional support perspective. And, I bounced around a few different counselors just because I think I was so young that I didn't really necessarily know how to respond to, a counselor trying to provide support, how, I think I just really couldn't grasp, how could I open up to someone I don't really know when I'm kind of a young, teenager, just trying to navigate my own thoughts, my own experiences, and how am I supposed to share that with someone else when I'm just trying to figure it out myself? So it definitely took, years of just trying to get the right support. But, ultimately, I think just over time, time has allowed me to heal and just kind of really reflect on my past experiences, and just, realize, okay, how can I use these experiences to not only better myself, but also try to help better other individuals' lives who have gone through something like this. So the trauma was definitely there emotionally and mentally. But over the years, it's definitely gotten, a lot easier to manage, especially from kind of turning around that perspective, to more of a strength perspective and resilience perspective. And so that's really kind of led me and equipped me to, really just be able to persevere in any, situations, in my life where, things look a little bit tough. And so, it's something obviously I don't wish on anyone in terms of, trauma, but, um, that has definitely molded me into who I am today in terms of that, inner strength that I can always, kind of bring out when I need.
And you've mentioned the word strength a couple of times, and that sounds like that's a personal value for you. And so I'm wondering if you could just expand on that a little bit as far as how that shows up in your life, as far as processing and traveling, or excuse me, navigating that grief journey.
Yeah, the strength really comes, I have kind of a three F's foundation that I like to say. It's faith, family, friends, and that's kind of the core, of, how I want to, make the best of each and every day, and just kind of really appreciate this life that I have and how far myself, my family has gotten. But I really draw the strength from my mother. Her situation where she was dealing with, something tragic happening to her spouse, going to the hospital, taking care of him pretty much every day. And also trying to just keep my brother and I on the right track. I know there's so many circumstances where, something like this can definitely derail, the direction of these young kids' lives in terms of maybe they start, going off the wrong path and making the, decisions that aren't going to be the best for them moving forward. My mother was just the rock that really held our family together. And she was the one that really just kept us going. And she did anything she could to, allow my brother and I to have the best childhood experience that we could. So she kept us in sports, made sure that we, would stay in school. And she was really kind of that grounded person that we needed, while she was navigating everything on her side. So the strength really comes from her. She's my role model. She's, always going to be that person for me, and always going to be, someone who essentially saved my life in terms of she molded me, on top of all of our experiences into the person I am today. And so, with that strength, I get that all from her. And where I'm able to use it in my life more is, in work situations where, there might be a busy project that I'm working on where it seems like it's just kind of, over and over, just pretty tedious, and something that's, looking a little bit bleak in terms of how am I going to be able to finish this in time and whatnot. I'm able to kind of use my learnings from what my mom taught me, throughout the years in terms of, okay, it always works out, and, you're going to find a way. You just got to keep your head down and, just take one step at a time, baby steps at a time. And so that's what's been so special in terms of I've been able to apply that and what my mom has shown me, to not only some things that I personally experience in my day-to-day life, but also kind of reflect that into, some of my peers and people around me as well.
Well, it sounds like you've got a very special one with your mother, and I hope that she listens to this podcast and hears the kudos and the respect that you're paying to her, because it's special to hear that as as a listener to your personal experience. And so also I'm thinking about another theme, and the theme is the power of story. And so here, you're sharing bits and pieces of your story, and you've provided this platform. This is why, to help create a community so that people can share their story. As you mentioned, it could be anonymous, it could be owned, but that experience to express it, and in this case, to what sounds like write it in online form, correct?
That's correct.
And so for you, Bryan, when I'm curious if there's a moment or perhaps, a buildup of something that helped you, had that perhaps an aha experience of like, oh, okay, the power of telling my story is part of a healing process. Was there something that stands out for you?
Yeah. In terms of a specific experience, I don't think anything really stood out. I think it was more just realizing, over the past recent years that, there are, especially with the COVID outbreak, there's so many young, children and teenagers who have lost a parent, unfortunately, just, in this tough pandemic that we all went through a couple of years back. And, being able to just kind of realize the gravity and the scale of, I'm just one person who has gone through something like this, but around the world, I know it happens so frequently, and it's so tough to realize that. And, really just kind of learning and maturing over the years in terms of, I've really kind of realized my strength now. Again, there's that word strength, to hopefully reflect that and give that to someone else who might need it. There might be a child or teenager right now, who maybe recently lost a parent, and, every situation is unique and every experience is unique. But if I can just share kind of what has helped me, and if that helps just one person, in terms of, okay, this person went through something that I'm going through right now. It sounds like it works out. There's a light at the end of all this, when it seems pretty dark, how can I navigate this, and how can I get the support I need to navigate this? So for the storytelling aspect of my situation, I wanted to be able to provide that vulnerability, that transparency, to say, I'm a human being. I have my struggles. I still, still do. I've had my, difficult times with when, the anxiety disorder was really having an effect on my life. How can I really show, who I am as a person and my experiences, and really allow that to, hopefully inspire some folks who, are having some tough times right now. Regardless of age, if they've lost a parent at some point in their lives, it's going to be difficult for everyone. But if there's something that can resonate with someone else, just sharing my story and allowing them to maybe, share their story, as well as kind of a cathartic experience for them, just to release anything that they've been holding up that they couldn't really creatively, express elsewhere. That's what I wanted to provide with This Is Why. And so, just over the years of really understanding that has helped me to, be able to, put this vision into something that, I could make happen. And hopefully it's been, a great help for folks that are both reading and also sharing their story. But just this community aspect overall has been so special, so profound to me, just to see, there is always, this sense of hope and this sense of, we're going to get through this together, with all these stories that I've heard and read and seen. So it's been pretty special so far.
Yeah. I think the power of story is extremely powerful in grieving and healing. And I think that what you created is very important indeed. And so I guess more logistically speaking, if let's say I post, I post on the This Is Why platform, is there an opportunity, and regardless of whether I post anonymously or I share my personal information, is there an opportunity for people to comment, respond, or create some kind of interaction?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a comment section on the website, but also when I post a story on the website, I also do the same thing on, social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. And so being able to have that reach of, different, individuals who want to, communicate with someone who has shared their story, there's always that opportunity. And if the contributor doesn't want any comments, that's completely fine. And I obviously, respect that and, disable any commenting or any of that. But, typically it's that communal approach that, a lot of these, storytellers have been opening up to, and have been welcoming, these other readers to really kind of see and kind of share, their feelings in reading, someone else's story. And so, just having, that reciprocity has been special in terms of being able to, communicate with each other and really kind of connect that way as well.
Thanks, Bryan. One thing I really like about what you've created, and This Is Why, is that it's an opportunity for, like you said, people to have this cathartic experience, but it's also a different medium. It's a medium of writing their story, or for people who don't write, it's also a medium for them to read about more stories. Not everybody wants to talk. And, I guess it's an easy assumption that if you and I are having this conversation on this podcast and somebody listening, we make this association with audio, using our voice and using vocal language to communicate. But that's not always the case. Some people, I've worked with a lot of people who say, yeah, I got nothing to say. I'm present and I'm grieving. I'm mourning, but I'm mourning by listening. I'm mourning by, reading or hearing the stories from others. I don't have to say something. And so that's where I see there's a lot of value in what you've created. And specifically, it is for, the people who lost a parent as either a child or teenager. That's a very specific, we'll call it an audience for lack of a better term. And I think that's very powerful too, because I haven't seen or heard a lot of those types of platforms out there. So you've created something special, and I just want to appreciate you for it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been, so profound, just me being able to start this and then interacting with these folks all around the world, um, just showing me their appreciation. But that wasn't the foundational aspect of why I wanted to start This Is Why. It's not for me just to get kudos for, doing something like this. I just want to be able to help someone else navigate their journey, because we're all going through it each and every day. Um, there's a lot of highs in this life. There's a lot of lows in this life, and it's just going to be a wave of kind of ebbs and flows. And, some days are going to be a little bit easier. Some days are going to be tougher, but, ultimately that core foundation of, that resilience, that strength, and that hope that I keep kind of bringing up, that's what I want to instill in, other folks who have gone through something similar, regardless of that age range. So it's been so special. It's also been really special, hearing from some of these widows who have lost a spouse and want to kind of understand how their children are feeling, and kind of seeing that perspective from, in my own experience, my mother's perspective, how is she thinking, about my thoughts and my older brother's thoughts. And just being able to provide kind of both sides of that has been so special, because I experienced it at a young age, but also I'm now a young adult who is able to help, other folks, who maybe have children and have lost a spouse, and kind of share that perspective and be that intermediary, in terms of, communicating feelings and understanding feelings. So yeah, it's just been such an incredible experience so far, and definitely no plans on stopping anytime soon.
Those are great points indeed. Great perspective on, obviously, not just for the people who were in the situation of being children and teenagers at the time of the loss, but commenting on, the spouses. What are my children going through? Can I gain more insight? That's a great perspective, Bryan. Very special, very important. A lot of Grief Refuge listeners are adults who've lost a significant other, and so they may see that as extremely valuable with trying to understand what their children may have experienced or are experiencing. So throughout our conversation, you've alluded to some of these, I'm going to call them pangs of grief, obviously grief being a lifelong journey. And so having, experience under your belt with managing your emotions and navigating your grief journey, what are some of the go-to coping mechanisms that you rely on when you may have one of those days where you just feel really sad or just longing for or missing your father? How do you cope when you have those moments, Bryan?
Yeah, I think with the coping mechanisms, it's definitely unique person to person. But ultimately, I think, it's going to be helpful to find something that, shows you the joy of life, and just really shows your appreciation for life. So, some things that help on my end are, really just, taking walks or going on runs, doing some sort of sport, because I, played all different types of sports growing up, and golf's my number one sport right now. And golf's something where it is an individual sport, but you can just kind of be out there on the course for a few hours and really just kind of forget about everything else, um, and really do something you enjoy. So sports is something that has helped me significantly, not only with golf as an individual sport, but also playing a lot of recreational team sports as well right now, and just meeting a lot of new people, and just really, gaining and building new relationships that really shows you, how special this life is each and every day. Music is also kind of another great, facet of my life. My mother is a piano teacher right now, and she's been a piano teacher ever since, even before I was born. So I was always surrounded, with music all throughout my life. And music can be such an incredible, emotion provoking experience for anyone. There's songs that can bring great joy. There's songs that, can be, have a little more of a sad tone. and can bring up different memories. And so music is something so powerful, but I think it's, especially with instruments and playing, whether it's piano, guitar, drums, whatever it may be, that's also a nice way just to release, any stress, any worry, anxiety, and just kind of get away from it all and just kind of enjoy what you love to do. So sports and music are some of the bigger parts of my life for sure. That's really kind of helped me, just be able to just express myself in a different creative way, and just really show me that, these hobbies are something that I really enjoy in this life. And whenever I have a tough day, I try to do, one of those things that just, tries to get me out of that hump, and really just, shows me that there's a lot of great in this world. And it's just, it's really about trying to find, what works for you, what's going to help you, and just trying to stick with that as much as you can.
Yeah, appreciate those examples, Bryan. I know for me personally, I love to get outside myself. I just love to surround myself in nature. To this day, I still don't have a full explanation of what exactly happens, but I just know if I'm feeling pangs of grief, I go outside, I find myself in nature, try to get away from sounds, man-made sounds, and just be present. And then by the time I return, I know that my mood has shifted a lot, and I'm like, wow, the magic of nature. It's so powerful in my personal experience. And also appreciate you speaking to movement and activity in your physical body. I believe that is very important also. So those are great examples. Thank you for that. I tell you what, you said This Is Why isn't going anywhere. Tell us a couple of things or two about, the growth and the development of This Is Why.
Yeah, it's been so incredible, just like I said, interacting with, these individuals, who are, kind of sharing an experience similar to mine. And, I never want to force anyone to share their story. Everyone has a different level of comfort and vulnerability. And so I never want to pressure anyone at all, to ever share their story, but I just want to provide that opportunity for, folks to share their story if they believe that that's going to help them kind of navigate through their journey at that specific stage, in their life. And so the storytelling platform and community has been great. Just being able to kind of share my life experiences and what has helped me individually, and hopefully other folks can resonate with, what I've been going through and what has helped me, and maybe they can apply that in their own lives. Ultimately, I do want to, grow This Is Why into an official nonprofit organization, down the road. I want to be able to help out as much as I can, and I think financially, would be one of the key facets there. Just being able to help out these, these families where there are children, but a single parent that's trying to help raise these children. I want to be able to help them, as much as I can, and financially is one aspect, but also continue the storytelling, support aspect as well. So I have all these preliminary plans and visions that, in terms of which way I want This Is Why to go. And what's been so great is that I've been so lucky to meet, and folks like yourself, Reed, and so many great people who are already providing this grief support all around the world in a lot of different ways, whether that be grief retreats like, Grief Refuge is doing, whether it's holding Camp Aaron like Aluna is doing, which I've been involved in the past, and just having these different ways to support these families where there is that loss, and really kind of provide as much support as possible, in every which way or method. And that's kind of, I want to be able to be an ally, and another just layer of support in this effort, that's ultimately global. It's not something that just happens within each of our separate regions, but it happens everywhere around the world in many different unique circumstances. So it's been great to just meet individuals like yourself and really learn about this space and how best I can continue to support people. And so it's definitely a learning process each and every day, but I'm just so grateful to meet such special people, like yourself, who are in this, effort together to really just provide, whatever we can to help these families and these individuals get through their grief journeys together.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I know that you're a smart person. I can hear it when you speak, and I know that your heart's in the right place. And so I have all the most confidence that This Is Why will be a nonprofit that really just provides a lot of support to a lot of people in need in these types of situations. So keep up the great work, Bryan. Don't quit, okay?
Thank you. Absolutely not. No plans anytime soon.
Well, we appreciate you being a guest on Grief Refuge and sharing a bit of your personal story and being transparent and sharing some vulnerabilities if that was your experience. And we look forward to seeing how This Is Why and Bryan Jung continues to grow. Take care, Bryan.
Thanks so much, Reed.
Thank you so much for listening to the interview today. I'm deeply grateful for your trust in Grief Refuge and all the stories and insights and experiences shared on this podcast. Grief and healing is important work. Without it, you most likely will live in more pain, miss out on empathy, and feel a sense of being stuck. Remember that if you need more support at this time, download the Grief Refuge app. It's a great and convenient way to validate and support you as you grieve and heal. So please search for Grief Refuge on your phone's app store now. Also, please leave a rating and review for this Grief Refuge podcast. Your feedback is listened to, it's valued, and it's used to better serve your needs. So please rate and review Grief Refuge on this podcast player that you're using now. Thank you. Take care. Keep honoring your grief. Keep listening to your heart. Be kind to yourself, and talk to you soon.